The basic idea behind how tabletop role playing games work is not very complicated, and in fact, it is pretty easy to explain. This is episode 3, and I'm going to explain it here. So stick around. My name is Michael, and I'm a gamer. So, quite some time ago, I filmed a couple episodes that were sort of an introduction to how tabletop role-playing games work. We talked about the gear, we talked about some of the things you'll need, and what you can do to get started. I got some good response to that, and I really appreciate that. There are some few people that asked questions, and a lot of people have been asking for the next episode. I finally got things in a position where I can do that, so here I am. What I'm going to talk about today is kind of the idea behind how you play tabletop role-playing games. If you have been playing RPGs for a while now, this may not be immediately obvious. We've had some people new to games in our gaming group who were kind of surprised by how it worked, which is not to say that it's difficult to get the hang of. It's just not always immediately obvious. So as with everything we've talked about before, I don't want anybody to think of these as rules or to think of it as doing it wrong if you don't do exactly as I'm going to describe. These are guidelines. The overall idea is entertainment. You're here to have fun and play games. So really don't take it too seriously. If something doesn't work for you, don't do it. For every role-playing game group out there, there's going to be a different philosophy behind how things work. What I'm going to try and do is kind of generalize some of the common ideas behind the way groups do things. Then you can take that to your group and, do or do not. Okay, I'm going to illustrate this with figures from our gaming box. Now, this guy right here, this guy is a GM. Now, there are going to be a few different names for this guy's job. If you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, you're going to call him the Dungeon Master. Traveler and other games might refer to him as the Referee. White Wolf System is going to call him like the Storyteller. Other terms for what his job is could be judge or guide or narrator or any number of different terms based on the game system. Now, our gaming group doesn't really differentiate and just uses the term Game Master or GM as a catch-all regardless of the system, and I think we're pretty typical in that regard. Now, his job is basically to be in charge of the game. He's supposed to come up with all the puzzles that the players are supposed to solve and problems and setbacks that they have to navigate as they go about it. These puzzles and obstacles all take the form of situations in certain settings depending on the game system the GM is running. For instance, if he's running Dungeons & Dragons, it would be kind of a medieval fantasy setting. Traveler is science fiction. There's literally hundreds of different kinds of settings out there that you can play in, from post-apocalyptic to feudal Japan to present day, like with superheroes or military type guys. Now, these guys over here, these are players. Okay, their job is to come up with alter egos or characters that live inside the setting that the GM over here came up with. Think of them as game pieces that the players use to play the game. Now, based on the rules in the game system, they come up with all the qualities and attributes and things that define their character, from the physical attributes to everything they know and skills that they may have, and even the character's behavior and personalities. In some situations, you might even have to think about your character's personal history if that fits in with the kind of game that the GM is trying to run. Now, these qualities are all represented by numbers that are either chosen by the player or generated randomly with dice, depending on how the GM wants it done. We're going to talk about that more in another episode, probably the next one. Now, these characters are how the players interact with the GM's world and navigate whatever adventures he's come up with. The GM would describe to the players what's happening around them and act out the parts of the other people the players encounter. And the players respond with whatever actions their characters would take, including getting into fights, running away, or just having conversations through their character's voice. Now, an important caveat is that the players can do anything they want, limited only by the limitations of their character. Okay? If you're playing a character that's physically weak, the GM isn't going to let you punch through walls or throw furniture around. If you're playing a character that's missing a limb, likewise, your actions are going to be limited by the same way that disability would in real life. So as you can see, the basics of playing tabletop role-playing games are pretty straightforward. But there's more to it than that, and we're going to get into that next week when we talk about making a character. So tune back in, bring paper and pencil and some dice, and we'll get into it. Thanks for watching.